We used Claude Code to create the content for these keywords. And as you can see, these keywords have pretty much gone from either low rank or no rank to Google's first page almost instantly. So we've gone from no rank to position 5, no rank to position 11, no rank to position 10. And let me just show you how many leads these keywords are driving. So if I jump into Google Analytics, of course, I have to keep this confidential, but on the left-hand side are all the pages that these keywords are ranking for. And over here on the right-hand side, last 28 days, this has driven 50 leads for the business. And these leads have high intent. They're people that are ready to buy, ready to spend their money. And what I'm going to do today is walk you through a live build for a client. So I'm going to take you right from the start. Maybe you've never downloaded Claude Code before. I'm going to show you how to download it, how to install it, and then show you how to create a keyword research document, create a content plan, and then finally create content that ranks on Google's first page, allowing you to drive actual leads and generate actual revenue from your SEO efforts. And if you want access to the skills and the prompts that I'm going to go through today, then comment SEO skills in the comment box below, and I will send you a link so you can access all of the great stuff that we're about to go through. But without further ado, let's dive into the video. So the first thing I need you to do is go to Google and search for Visual Studio Code. And I need you to download the Visual Studio Code piece of software. So if you Google it, it will be the first or the second solution up at the top here. Once you've downloaded Visual Studio Code, I then need you to go to Data for SEO. And we're going to use Data for SEO as the tool of choice for our keyword research and our SERP analysis as well. What I love about Data for SEO is firstly, it pulls its volumes from the Google Keywords Planner, the Google Ads Keywords Planner, so they tend to be a lot more accurate. And second, it's one of the few softwares that don't charge you a monthly recurring fee. It's pay per usage. So typically it's a lot cheaper and you only need to pay a few cents for each of your searches. If you've never used it before, I think you get like $5 worth of credit. So you can do this completely free of charge. So if I go to login, you'll get a dashboard, looks a little bit like this, and it's mainly used really for its API, which is why it's great to plug into the likes of Claude Code, because Claude Code can call the API and do the searches on our behalf. So once you've downloaded Visual Studio Code, if you open it up for the first time, it will look something like this. Now, the first thing you need to do is create a folder of which we're going to operate from. So if I go to open, I'm going to create a folder to begin. So I've just opened a folder, called it Air Compressor Servicing YouTube. I'm going to select yes, I trust the authors. Now on the left-hand side here, what you're going to do is go to extensions and you're going to install the Claude Code for VS Code. Now I am making an assumption that you already have Claude, and this is quite simply just the integration that you're looking to do here. So once you install Claude Code for VS Code, you will get the Claude logo up in the corner here. And if you select that, this is the window that we're going to operate from. So you can actually close the welcome message and you can close the build with agent on the right-hand side. Now, to get to the point of having Claude actually create the content, we want to put it into plan mode. And I'm going to go through the step of doing the keyword research. I'm then going to get it to turn that into a content plan. And then the last step is essentially creating the actual content that will rank in Google. So the first thing to do is put it into plan mode. Plan mode essentially gives Claude the opportunity to plan out the full project. It's much cheaper. You can approve it before it dives headfirst into it, and you're far less likely to run into issues that are going to prove expensive from a token point of view if you go into plan mode. So I'm going to give it quite a comprehensive project prompt just to kick it off. I have an air compressor servicing client, and they service air compressors across both the East and the West Midlands of the UK. Now, what I want you to do is firstly conduct a keyword research task looking for any keywords that are air compressor servicing plus the location, and the location should be a town or city based in the East or the West Midlands of the UK. I then want to evolve this into a content plan. So I want to have a look at secondary keywords. I want to have a look at titles and H1s. I want to then create the URL slug, and the URL slug should follow air compressor servicing / and then the location. I want to think about what other keywords users would search for if they're looking for air compressor servicing businesses. By the end of this, I will want you to create the actual content for each of these pages. But for now, I just want you to kick off the keyword research piece and the content plan. Now, to do the keyword research piece, I want you to use Data for SEO. I will provide the credentials. And before you start, ask me any clarifying questions that you need to get the project right first time. So I've given it quite a detailed prompt. I've pretty much just word vomited everything that I need for this project. And what I'm going to do is hit go, and Claude Code will essentially start picking apart this prompt that I've given it and turn it into an actionable plan that it's going to execute, basically. So I am just making up a client here to use. I'm pretending that we've got an air compressor servicing client. You'll see that one of the clarifying questions that it asked was the format as well. So quite often it will create the format in a .md or a markdown, and it's basically said, do I want it in a CSV spreadsheet? And I've said yes. So that's already saved us a job. Okay, it's now given us a plan, and you can see on the right-hand side just how comprehensive this is. So it's picked up 40 major towns or cities. It's told us what it's going to call from Data for SEO. It's actually given us some of the related keywords as well. So we've got servicing, service near me, compressed air, system maintenance, air compressor repair, industrial compressor servicing. Given us showed us what an example of the CSV will look like. So it's even put in the CPCs, because the Google ad cost per click could be a good indicator as to how competitive the keyword is, and subsequently how difficult it would be to rank as well. It's given us the title. It's given us the outline URL slug. So ad compressor dash air compressor servicing / Birmingham, which is awesome. It's told us the files it's going to create. So this all looks really good straight off of the bat. This means that we can get a CSV. It will outline the target keyword it's going after, the volume, which might help us sort of prioritize the content, the slug. So it seems to have understood the brief. So what I'm going to do is auto accept and then wait for it to actually write the spreadsheet. Okay, and after quite a few minutes, this has now produced an output. Now, one thing I will say is that Claude will regularly ask you to say yes to commands or web fetches or something like that. Just keep pressing yes. It's broadly okay. It just means that you're giving it permission to run things in your terminal, which basically just means that it needs to do that task to get to the next problem that it needs to solve, basically. So you will get quite a few messages saying, can Claude web fetch? Can Claude run this command in the terminal? Just keep pressing yes. It's absolutely fine. Cool. So it's produced two CSV files, which is interesting. So this one is the location page targets, it looks like. The second one, a reference file of generic head terms keyword from both Ahrefs and Data for SEO. So what I love about Claude Code is it sort of tells the story as it builds the plan. It sort of gives us almost like these mini updates on the way, which is cool. And one thing I noticed as this was going through was that it couldn't get all the data from Data for SEO. Now, Data for SEO, the keyword research tool it uses, is actually, in fact, the Google Ads keyword planner, which is awesome because the accuracy of the keyword volumes is much closer to the source of truth than, say, an Ahrefs or a SEMrush, which is at best an estimate, right? But actually, what it found was the Google Ads keyword research volumes a lot of the time were coming in at 0 or close to 0. And this is because Google Ads aggregates essentially a lot of their volumes for similar keywords to ensure that the minimum is 10, basically. So what it did was it used Ahrefs to pull some of the additional sort of volume data, which is cheating a bit, right? Because I do have this already set up and installed, but I do maintain that Data for SEO is a much better source of truth for keyword volumes. But anyway, that's by the by. Now, where are these two files hosted? Well, if you go back into the folder that you opened originally on VS Code, you'll notice that they're both in there. So here's my air compressor servicing YouTube folder, and you'll see we've actually got 4 different files. So Claude itself has actually created a requirements.txt, which is cool. So essentially all the guardrails that I outlined at the start. It's then also created its own Python script. So for Claude to actually create a CSV in a spreadsheet, it has to use Python to build the thing. And the natural output is actually a .md or a markdown file. So a good piece of advice, if you ever get a format for something that you want in a spreadsheet, just ask Claude to use a Python script or use Python to convert the .md into a spreadsheet. And you could do that from, for any two formats, basically. But yeah, something that's teed us up well. Okay, let's have a look. I think this is the main one, the air compressor servicing content plan. Cool. Okay, we've got the region, we've got the location, we've got the primary keyword, and as outlined, it's air compressor servicing plus location. So that's what we want. Again, it's given us the Ahrefs volume, fine. Keyword difficulty, estimated CPC. Again, it's just going to use the Ahrefs one, so not super accurate, right? Head term volume. And it's got some secondary keywords, suggested page title, an H1 and a URL slug. So it's fine. It does the job. It's essentially a keyword research piece that's sort of grouped into a content plan, which is broadly what we were looking for. So the next part of this is now creating the content. And what we want to do is essentially use some of the findings that it's already given us and then add on the SEO fundamentals just to make sure that we're ticking all those Google boxes. I now want you to create the content for the first keyword, which is air compressor servicing Birmingham. There's two things I want you to do. The first one is I want you to crawl the live SERP for the target keyword, which in this case is air compressor servicing Birmingham. I want you to find the top 3 ranking competitors that are most similar to the content we're trying to create. So essentially real businesses that offer air compressor servicing services in Birmingham. And I want you to go through the content and find similar patterns. There are essentially things that have helped them rank in those positions. So ensure that we are not comparing our content or trying to find patterns with content that is clearly not from a provider that provides air compressor servicing services. So ensure that we're ignoring like a Reddit thread or Quora forums or government websites or YouTube, for example. The second part is I want you to follow these SEO fundamentals, which is ensuring that we've got the target keyword in the H1 and the title. Also ensure that we reference the target keyword in the opening paragraph or the introduction of the content. I want you to also bring in local signals for the page. So for example, I want you to bring in sort of local landmarks. I want you to provide directions to the city centre and anything that can really bring a local feel to the piece of content. Now, of course, I'm not using an actual client here, so I can't give you directions to their office or anything like that, but just ensure that the page is super localized to the location of which we're creating that content for. So you'll notice there that I've done two things. I've asked it to call the live SERP. So whenever you create content with an AI model or Claude Code in this instance, it's always good to get it to check the SERP to try and find patterns within the content. I do have other skills that go a lot deeper with this. When you're creating content that's really localized or targeting a specific region or territory or town or city, the competition for that location tends to be quite small, and that's why it's much easier to typically rank quite quickly in Google. So if I was doing this for a keyword that had a higher level of competition because the value of that keyword was significantly more, I would reference a skill with an NLP algorithm that looks for set patterns within the content. But when it's keyword plus a location, unless if you're going after something like London or, you know, capital city, you can typically rank the content quite well with on-page signals that aren't as sophisticated as if you were going after, let's say something in a software category, for example. We've got a number of B2B software providers, highly competitive, expensive CPCs. We do a lot more from an on-page perspective. But when it's keyword plus location, air compressor servicing, or sort of more of your traditional brick and mortar businesses, much easier to rank, which is why we can get Claude to essentially freeball and figure out the patterns itself. Am I making a lot of sense there? I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling a little bit, but essentially the more competitive the keyword is, the more sophisticated the on-page requirement subsequently is, right? So we would do a lot more from an on-page perspective if we were trying to rank, say, in the HR software category, and I've done plenty of videos around that, versus like a location page brick and mortar keyword where, yeah, competition's not super high, volumes are quite modest. We don't need to go too heavy on really trying to fine tune the content, thankfully. We just need to make sure that it says what it does on the tin. Okay, cool. So the content's been created. It's produced it in a markdown file in a .md. I'll come on to that in a minute. It's given us a breakdown as to the competitors it's analyzed and the trends that it's found. So it's found JLI-Leach.com, who I know are an air compressor servicing business, same as Ready Air and same as Direct Air as well. So it's picked up 3 good competitors in that sense. Now, the first one, 3,000 words. Wow, that's very heavy for a service page. Keyword in every FAQ, Birmingham Heritage section, industry-specific tailoring. Okay, cool. They've also lent on credentials that you'd expect. Ready Air, moderate depth, 25 years experience, compressor types listed. Direct Air, regional page covering, Birmingham Cov. Case studies from Midlands businesses. So you can already see that there's very good sort of localized signals here. Of course, I'm not doing this on behalf of an actual client in this example, so I won't be able to lean on, like our years in the game, our case studies, all these things that I wanted to bring to the forefront, say that those are the things that you should be doing in your content. Some of the patterns it's picked up. So the fundamentals, target keyword in the H1 title, opening paragraph, an FAQ section. Industry-specific sections, tailored to local sectors. That's pretty cool. Detailed technical insight breakdown, so how it works. Warning signs, educational section, comprehensive coverage as well. So it's pulled quite a lot for that specific keyword. Local signals embedded, landmarks, major employers, infrastructure, city areas, developments, industry. Context. Okay, that's cool. Let's take a look at this. We've got at the top here the title, the slug, the secondary keywords, air compressor servicing in Birmingham. Okay, cool. What sets us apart? It's actually just outlined a series of typical, I guess, benefits of using this make-believe client, if you like. Fluid infiltration system, cooling system. Okay, fantastic. I mean, this looks pretty sound. They've also added FAQs. They've added an industry breakdown as well. So that's not a bad one shot, which is awesome. As I said, this is pretty much the process that we outlined for the client that I went through at the start who gained those super quick rankings. This is pretty much the step-by-step we went through. There's 2 things I want to do. So one, it's missing internal links. So I want it to outline where internal links would be put in, as part of an SEO fundamental. And 2, let's get it to convert the .md into a Word doc. Can you outline potential opportunities for internal links where it should link out to the other localized pages that we want to build? And can you convert the .md into a Google Doc via a Python script? You can actually see as this builds and as I'm approving all these commands that this is actually getting built out on the right-hand side. So the internal links are starting to get thrown in, which is awesome. So surrounding West Midlands towns, it's given the breakdown of the other areas that we cover with the hypothetical internal link to those areas. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got some contextual ones as well. So our location gives us easy access to the M6, Junction 6 for Spaghetti Junction, a very infamous, I would say, junction in the Midlands. So it's great that it's picked up on even just the naming convention of that, right? M42, A38, that's an expressway, and then it links to the Coventry page as we're going through and doing this. So I think the point is it's really understood the assignment, which is awesome. And once we've built out the frame of the Birmingham page, we can then go through and essentially build out the content for all the other domains as well. Now, I highly recommend that you do go through and you check every single one of these, and you do also add your own unique spin to it. So I'm not creating this for an actual business, but actually add in business case studies, actually add in years of service, actually add in the things that create the moat for you as a business. Why should they go for you over Ready Air or Direct Air or something like that. And make sure that you kind of bring that in at the forefront. Dump all that context in when you're creating this stuff. So I can already see that it's added the internal links. It's just confirmed that it's added 19 internal links, which is awesome. And I can see those throughout the content. So we can see that it's created our doc down here. Now, if we go back into the folder that we're working from, we can actually see the Claude Code has created its own content folder here. And in the drop down, we can see that docx. So let's open it up. Of course, we've got the H1, we've got the H2s. The formatting of it looks pretty good. It's not overly wordy, which is essentially what we don't want. You know, when it's a service page, we want to keep it to the point, including the surrounding areas, the FAQs and everything like that. So this looks pretty good. Even just giving it a bit of a read, I actually think this is pretty good. Now I'm going to add one last point to this, which we want to remove the AI isms. We want to ensure that it doesn't sound like AI. I actually think this has done a pretty good job, but I'm going to drop in a prompt that is almost just a sweetener to remove anything that could even sound a little bit like AI. Because as soon as we think something's written by AI, we just distrust it. So I'm going to go back into VS Code, and I'm actually just going to paste this prompt, which basically outlines a big guardrail as to how to avoid having content that sounds like AI. And this is the last step of the process. So avoid defaulting generic SAS language or common AI isms, dive in, deep dive, pretty much list a load of them. And this is an evolving prompt, I would say. But yeah, obviously no M-dashes, replace it with a hyphen or a dash and things like that. So let's hit go on that. And then I think once this has been created, we will be good. One word of warning when doing this, please do not do this at scale. So by that, I mean, do not create hundreds and thousands of pages, launch them on your website at once, because you risk a Google penalty. Now, the quantity really comes down to a couple of things. One, how many current pages you have on your live site. So for example, if you've only got 100 pages on your site, don't suddenly publish 1,000 pages, because that will trigger an algorithmic penalty from Google, highly likely anyway. The second part is the rate at which you're building and naturally earning links. So again, if you have a brand new domain, you don't have any authority, you don't have any branded search, no one really knows who you are, and suddenly you're launching hundreds, if not thousands of pages, it's going to look quite spammy. And again, you could risk a Google penalty. The example I showed you at the start, they're an old business, they've got an aged domain, they've got hundreds of pages anyway, and we drip fed 101 different pages over the course of about 6 months, and that's how we achieved the results, because we were kind of drip feeding content and the rankings followed suit. So just a word of warning, do not use this to abuse your site, because there is a risk you could be hit with a Google penalty, and that is the last thing I want for you guys. Okay, this has now done. It's removed 6 instances of an M-dash. It's actually corrected a location signal that it had an issue with. It's also created it's also tidied up some of the AI isms, and that is pretty much that. So we've created a keyword research and a content plan, and we've created a piece of content as well that contains all the patterns from the URLs that are ranking top, as well as our location signals. So between the two of those things, those are usually the key points that Google are looking for to rank the page. Now, if you've stuck with me until this point, thank you very much. If you want access to the full step-by-step and a download of essentially the skill that we've used to create all of this. So I packaged everything up that I've gone through today into a skill that you can download. If you sign up to the link in the description, you'll be sent a Notion board that looks like this. This is a Notion board, contains all the show notes to all the videos that I've done. If you click the first link on the Notion board, you'll have the skill that you can download and pretty much just drop into your Claude instance, your Claude Code instance. And then we've also provided a step-by-step here. So if you want more of a breakdown as to what we did and essentially a bit of a guide as to how to do it, this is all here as well. Of course, you can just copy and paste this and put all of this into Claude. If you want to see more of these types of videos, then please subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I will see you next time.